Well, again, my name is Paul Taubman. My company is called Digital Maestro. We're a website and marketing company here in Somerville. And I'll be your host this afternoon for today's topic, which is going to be on the state of hiring today with insights from employers. If you think about it, it's a huge topic based on the conditions that we're currently facing. Dennis just mentioned about the pivot that they're having to do because of so many things. We've got the pandemic kind of winding down or staying still or whatever you think that status is. The political climate, unemployment, labor, right? All those things and more. So I'm going to start out by just mentioning today's panelists are going to be in order that I see you guys on my screen is Dennis Harabin, Jennifer Wilner, Frankie Francese. Oops, I wanted to say it the way
you can't say it wrong. You can say it any way you want.
And Kim. So sorry about that. All right, so let's start with you, Jennifer. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Paul. So Jen Wilner, I'm a digital marketing support entrepreneur. So pretty much here in Central Jersey. And I've been, as Dennis said before, I've been a virtual assistant before people even knew that I think they existed. But I've tweaked the business over the past couple years to specifically digital marketing support. So I work with people like yourself, Paul. I'm the after person after they work with a website developer. And then my team then helps with the SEO and things of that nature. But we also I've worked with clients, entrepreneurs in all kinds of industries across the country, just to help them get their digital message delivered. So they're speakers, they're authors, trainers, could be a deli, they could be an insurance company. I mean, all kinds of businesses. So that's pretty much been my gig. I'm a serial entrepreneur on my third company now, and having fun with it. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Kim, how about yourself? You'd like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me in, Paul. I appreciate it. This is a topic that's one of my favorite ones. I'm with Cobalt Compass, and we provide consulting and training in support of the staffing industry. And that centers around sales and sales leadership training. And in addition, on the consulting side, we help businesses create business units and ramp up their employees for results, performance, and success. Prior to that, I had 28 years in the staffing industry. So watching labor trends, firsthand for quite some time. I was on the executive team of Hayes. They're a global $5 billion corporation headquartered out of the UK. And in the US, I was responsible for their government practice, for their national accounts, and also for their global practice in terms of the Americas, North and South America. And then prior to that, my career was with Kforce. They're also a staffing company, about $1 billion in revenue. I was also on their executive team. And there I was in charge of and responsible for the national sales strategy across multiple product lines, and also the national accounts team as well.
Okay, thanks. And Frankie Francese.
Yes, I'm Frankie Francese. Thank you, Paul. I'm the managing partner of Fortis Consulting Group. My firm specializes in accounting and finance recruiting, basically because that's who we are. We're all former accounting and finance professionals. My background is I graduated from Rutgers College with a degree in accounting, went on to Monmouth University to obtain my MBA. I'm a certified public accountant, certified management accountant. I taught for the Becker CPA review course for 10 years. I was an adjunct professor at Monmouth University, as well as a guest instructor at colleges throughout New Jersey. So my first position after graduating college was with the Big Four firm Deloitte. And this is where I was first introduced to the field of recruiting. In addition to being part of their audit practice, I was very involved with their campus recruiting. And between the teaching that I was doing after work and the campus recruiting that I did to support Deloitte's hiring needs, I quickly started to realize that that's kind of where my passion was, in career development of accounting professionals. Didn't really know what that meant, for my future, but I knew that I loved to teach, I loved to train, I loved recruiting. But my day job was being an auditor. So believe it or not, it's actually Dennis Harabin, who's here with us today, who planted that seed that, maybe there's something else out there. And after having, multiple conversations with him and coming in and meeting with the people he worked with at the time, I decided to make that jump from being an auditor to actually doing full-time recruiting. Spent 4 years with that company before deciding to open my own firm back in 2000. And ever since then, I've been able to really help advance the careers of accounting and finance professionals and provide the staffing solutions. Our clients range anywhere from emerging growth to Fortune 100 companies. So I've been doing this for 25 years and definitely excited to be part of this panel.
Well, we're excited that you're here with us. Last but not least, Dennis Harabin, you talked a little bit about Project Scholarship. Would you like to tell us a little bit about you and other things that you're doing?
Yeah, well, with Project Scholarship, the reason that came to be, again, my history was I'm an accountant, and I started out with in recruiting. And like Frankie said, and Frankie's being very modest, I recruited Frankie and saying, Frankie, you are born that anybody could fill in numbers into a spreadsheet. You are born to be a recruiter. The passion you bring to others, and the firm that we recruited Frankie into and Frankie became part of. There was about 4 or 5 of us at that time. We grew up to be merged with 13 others and go public as Access. So Frankie had a big role in growing that. And then Frankie went on to form Fortis, and proud to say I got to work with Frankie in Fortis as well, a badge of honor. So Frankie's just a wonderful recruiter. So that was my experience in recruiting. And I left there to actually go work with Kim. And Kim won't talk about this part, but back in the around 2000, Romac was merging with Source Finance and came together to become Kforce. And in that time, they were going online, and the first .com Super Bowl ads and all of that. We were building the automated recruiter. So I had the pleasure of working with Kim. Kim was in charge of kind of how does a system do recruiting. So Kim is an expert at knowing that, and obviously today she tells the biggest recruiting firms in the world how to do recruiting. So I'm here today to kind of help out, fill in a little bit on what this panel is going to have, but mostly I'm here to listen as well, because we got a wonderful vision. And Jennifer, back before the pandemic, before anyone else, when you needed someone virtually, you went to Jennifer. So that's why I'm here today, and I have experience with all of them, but I'll fill in some of my flavor. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, Kim, speaking about, the job scene, I don't want to just say the job market, but just everything that's kind of going on. Can you provide some insights from your perspective of what do you think people should know?
Sure. No, great question. I'd actually like to share some insights on retention. I think right now there's quite a bit of focus on attracting candidates, which is important. But when we have folks, how do we keep them, right? The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics announced in August, 4.3 million people left their jobs, right, and quit their jobs. That's actually about 2.9% of our entire workforce. And that actually was, a record, and it piggybacked off of a previous record in July. So I know recently Korn Ferry actually did a study of 1,100 professionals, and they said, okay, let's figure out why people are leaving. And what they came back with, 30% of the people that had quit their jobs in this Korn Ferry study said they're reevaluating their priorities and their lifestyle choices amid a pandemic. 24% left their job due to a lack of a clear advancement pathway. And 23% left for better pay and benefits, right? So how do we retain in this type of a climate? I think companies need to realize that what they were doing in the past, the solutions they were applying, don't necessarily apply today. They kind of need to revisit all of their assumptions and stress test each one of them one by one, right? I think employers sometimes have this misguided sense that if someone leaves, they can just easily replace them. And that's a really expensive mentality to have. And we all know that churn, impacts business, it impacts the customers, it impacts everybody. So what are some of the things we can do? Well, let's go back to the Korn Ferry study. First is an advancement pathway. If a company doesn't have a defined roadmap for their employees to excel and receive promotions in the organization, they really should start to develop one, right? I think there's very few people that want to sit in the same job for 25 years doing the same thing over and over again. They want a structure in place to go ahead and get to the next level. Next, creating a culture, and that sounds somewhat ambiguous, but we've all worked for people that that impacted our career, that built loyalty, that we wanted to follow, right? And then there were others that we just simply, we punched the clock, we got our job done, and we moved on. We just didn't necessarily want to follow them. So for anyone that's not listening and talking to and asking their employees questions, what do you want? What's important to you? Do you genuinely care about their success? Are you willing to coach and mentor them? Are you vested in helping them achieve? And if you're not approaching employees with that spirit and intention, that's going to be a problem. They're going to leave, right? They want to know that they're cared about and listened to, and that they're making that impact, right? Next, and I kind of put both of these in the same category, upskilling, reskilling, and education, right? So, a lot of companies are, through the labor shortage, they're actually saying, hey, let's take our folks, implement training and development type programs, whether that be online classes, whether it be webinars, classroom training. Let's get the people the skills that they need, because most professionals consider learning a lifelong journey. I know that everyone on here does, and so do I. So again, they don't want to be stagnant with the same skill set they had, 10 years ago. So hand in hand with that is tuition or education assistance. And again, these things cost money, so corporations need to evaluate if it actually fits. But they could offer a stipend for tuition, not the whole thing. They could offer a stipend for certifications and license renewals or enhanced degrees. And there's ways to structure it where the risk is more minimized on the company. Maybe they have to give that money back if they were to go and leave in a certain amount of time. Next, I think these kind of fit together as well, the flexible schedules and hybrid models. Long ago, the defense industry implemented a 980 workday. Companies like Grumman and General Dynamics, and their employees have every other Friday off. And this has been met with wild success. I can't find one person that I ever worked with in the government sector that thought it was a bad idea. While most companies maybe couldn't go that far, again, offering some type of flexibility to start and end hours is something that gets employees excited. And also 41% of employees surveyed in this Korn Ferry survey said they'd take a lesser dollar amount if they could go and actually have some type of a hybrid model. So for now, that's around to stay. And then I'll lump the final two together, benefits and bonuses, right? While everyone wants a pay increase, sometimes it's just not fiscally possible in an organization. You're increasing your fixed costs. But what can you do with bonuses, right? They're fluid. They're not a fixed cost. You can offer it on a quarterly basis, an annual basis, a spot basis. And again, you're not tied in to go and offer that every single year and hit that number, right? Like you would a pay increase. Benefits. I think we all have been to a doctor in our lifetime and realized that deductibles and copays are out of this world and not getting any better. So for any company out there that's offering nothing but a high deductible catastrophic health insurance plan, and I know several of them, that's what they offer, may want to take a look at that and try to evaluate and see, hey, can we shop around, look at other insurance carriers, offer at least some type of variety that is something other than catastrophic, high healthcare deductible type insurance. So those are a few ways, and we can elaborate on more further in the conversation, but those are at least a few things that folks can capitalize on. And to kind of put a bow on it, mentorship, employees working remotely, and Jennifer can attest to this. Sometimes if there's a mentor-mentee program, that can be incredibly helpful, not only to the mentor, making them feel part of the whole team and whole group, but the mentee getting that care and feeding that they need, especially if they're remote.
Sure, that's an important relationship as well. So thank you. Yeah, we will come back to some of those. I got some questions about that. Frankie, your insights on kind of how things are right now. What do you think from your perspective?
Sure. And really what I want to focus on is the insights for the hiring manager. What can you do in this economy, this job market that's the craziest that it's ever been in the 25 years I've been in recruiting. We've had our booms in recruiting, and I thought it could never get better than this. And then sometimes it got so good that I'm like, this is not that great because the candidates have all the power. And I've never seen so much power with the candidate right now because there's so many jobs, and quite honestly, in accounting and finance, at least, very few candidates out there, or they're very hard to find. So, what do you do to find the talent? Well, first of all, when I talk to my clients, I say, really start with the end in mind. You've got to clearly define the responsibilities of a position. You got to break it down. I mean, I read job descriptions from the largest companies in the world. I was just on a call a half hour prior to this panel discussion with one of the largest companies in the country, and I'm going through their job description, and there's nothing to it. There's a bunch of words, but it doesn't paint a picture. It doesn't let the candidate know what they're going to do. And even from a perspective of the qualifications, there's a lot of fluff in there. So we say, clearly define those responsibilities. Ideally, what we like to see is break it down as a percentage of time. That candidate wants to know, what am I going to do? And even more specifically, how much time am I going to spend in each area? Because maybe there's something in that job description that they're really excited about. And they want to know, is that going to be 25% of my time or is that 3% of my time? So for example, for a senior accountant, I'd love to see, all right, 25% of their time, they're going to do month end and year end closings, and maybe even a few specifics of what that entails. 20% of their time, they're going to evaluate transactions for more complex accounts, such as like inventory, sales, cost of goods sold. Tell them exactly what they can expect in this position. 15% of the time, you're going to supervise staff. You know, you start breaking out, it paints a good picture of what that position might look like. And then be specific with the qualifications of who you want to hire. There's so much fluff. I mean, I have a job description in front of me right now, and I see this all the time. Somebody who's got strong analytical and critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, self-motivated, detail-oriented, highly organized. Well, of course, that's a given. But what do you really want? Let's try and really pinpoint who you're looking for. And then you have to determine, so now you know what you want and you know what they're going to do. And then you got to determine what resources are you going to use for the recruiting process. And this is what people need to understand. Hiring managers need to understand that the best candidate is usually the person with their head down at their desk, their place of employment, outperforming those around them. And if they're outperforming those around them, they're not responding to ads and they're not searching the internet for a new job. They're happy, they're doing well, and they're being rewarded. Just like Kim said, there's a retention plan in place. You have to go and try and you need to convince them that you have something better to offer. So how can you attract them? Well, quite honestly, use a firm, use a recruiting firm, because what we do, we come in every day of every week for 10 hours a day. All we do is build our database, understanding the talent that's in that marketplace. When a client goes out there, they run an ad and they're going to get a snapshot at that very point in time of who's looking on the internet, who's doing something other than working, quite honestly. So, right? Who's doing something behind their employer's back. So you get a snapshot versus my 25 years and my database of 125,000 accounting professionals. So personally, maybe I'm biased, but I think that's your best way to find talent. You can have an employee referral program. Now you basically recruit your own employees to become recruiters. Get them to go out there and talk to people who might have their head down at their place of employment, doing a great job. And then you could use outreach through social media, because people do go out to the social media, whether it be a LinkedIn or even a Facebook, post a job out there, and you may find some talent. But I certainly think a recruiting firm or even an employee referral program are usually the two best sources. Then the next thing is, when you finally get a candidate you're going to interview, prepare for the interview with that specific candidate. These candidates are being courted by so many different companies. Really understand his or her resume. Do some additional research. Yes, you have to work. You need to convince that candidate that they should work for you, almost more so than they need to convince you that they're the right candidate. That's the kind of market we're in today. I just met a candidate the other day, and I saw that she went to Arcadia University. I didn't know much about it, so I did some research. It's a very small college. They have castles on their campus, and I started with that. And she was so impressed that I actually took the time to learn a little bit about her before we actually met. That really makes the candidate have a feeling of they're important to you. They're just not another resume, another piece of paper. Be prepared to sell the company. Interviews are two-way streets, like I said, especially in the current market. So what is special about the company? Why do employees like working there? Where's the company going in the future? What's the career path? Just like Kim said, where can you go in this company? And how will this person be developed professionally? How will they be mentored? It's not like the old days where a candidate comes in for a first interview, they have to sell you on why they're a good candidate. And then you invite them back and say, okay, in the second interview, we'll do some selling. We don't have that time in this market. It's a two-way street right off the bat.
Yeah, you can never go wrong with that personalization and that personalized touch, right? So
absolutely.
Thank you. And Jennifer, in the virtual world that you really thrive in, what's it like there for you? What would you like to add?
So it is a booming business. Like Dennis said, so I've been doing this, wow, feels like forever. This is my perfect work office behind me, but that's not what it really looks like. So there's a lot of this stuff going on. There's a lot of, Zoom filters and stuff like that. But the industry has like exploded, definitely in the past year and a half. But what I'm finding is I do a lot of work with clients who work with people within like their talent pool. So like, as an example, like executive assistants, executive secretaries in the C-suite, when they're looking to, they're either scared that they're going to get downsized, or they're taking control of their future and jumping into the gig economy, which is being an executive virtual assistant. So like a typical virtual assistant years ago was, somebody, and I mean this nicely, but it was somebody overseas that you were working with. Their talent may not have been, their talent was what their talent was. But if you need specific talent, you have to go and talk to, we're still talking to recruiters. We're talking to, our friends and our local, I'm going to say, peers of influence in the community to find talent, because my business started with just me after I sold my organic dog biscuit company. And I was literally getting handed business cards from people to create databases. One thing turned into another, and I started working with people, Paul, like you, doing websites, supporting website designers and developers. So what's happening is I guess like what I was saying before, the executive assistants that are looking for additional work, the graphic designers, we all see the ads for Canva on TV. Can't live without it, right? But then the graphic designers, sometimes we need graphic designers, truly talented graphic designers on our teams. So when I'm looking to build my team, it's a lot of referral. It's a lot of not advertising. I want to connect with the people that my connections know. And if I put something out on social media and I get inundated with connections and, oh, look at my website, or, oh, hey, call me, and people that can't really articulate what it is that they exactly do, then I kind of step back and go back to my network of, who do you know? Okay, local connections. Who do you know who can help me resize images? Who do you know? And we have to be very, very specific about it. But that's our virtual world. And you can have, I'm going to say 5 years ago, the real estate virtual assistants were a huge industry. And then I've seen that drop dramatically, and especially in the past year and a half. It seemed like everybody I know went out and got a real estate license. So they weren't really needing real estate virtual assistants, because it almost seemed like that business didn't need as much support as it needed sales. Now that I see the real estate virtual assistant industry gearing up again, and across the board. So with my local network, I'm going to say that almost everybody, unless they're in a network marketing business, almost everybody can value from having virtual support, and whether it's US based or internationally based.
Yeah, anybody or a single person or even a couple employees that work together in a small business, they can't do everything themselves. So they need to get that outreach.
Mm-hmm.
And Dennis, for you, since
Yep.
you have a wide variety of backgrounds and reach and touch points on this.
Yeah, no, and for me, and again, with working with, I mean, my niche right now, my specialty right now is really helping small business owners to retain more of what they earn. So when I look at it from, it's not just the accounting, there's so much software that does so much nowadays that really helping them take the whole approach. So when I'm looking holistically at a business, this is one of the first things people complain about. You know, it's the first thing they say is, hey, I can't hire talent. And I like to wake them up to the fact that Frankie just said there's Fortune 100 largest company. They can't hire talent. There's so many people that you're competing against. There's so, and no one even knows you exist. You're just a you're a smudge on the campus, and there's no way that you know, you're going to be able to be found against all this dollars and all these cents. So one of the things that you really want to look at is, do you really need one person to do everything? Because usually in a small business, they want one person who's going to do everything. And rather than doing that, can you break it down into smaller pieces, smaller functionalities, and then you're not as dependent when that one person leaves? How can you break it down? And do you need to own that employee? The thought of owning an employee is gone. It is more getting to be where it is everyone's an expert at what they do. And now break your task down to what's important. And then from your perspective, you do what you do best, because what you're really looking to do in small business, in a small industry, there's usually, you have a niche, you have something that you do. The accounting, the things, you can't go, I mean, you can, but it doesn't make sense to go to Frankie or to Kim and to go out and to hire a recruiter, because even if they, you know, you can afford to pay them and everything else, the people don't want to come to you because there's 17 other companies ahead of them that got better benefits, better everything. So really, for my niche and my focus, my concern as people is to really break down what it is you do, focus on what you do, because being a small Schedule C business, and this pandemic really taught us it. Are you a lifestyle business, or are you trying to scale to become the next huge thing? Most companies aren't. A lot of times people really have a nice lifestyle company business they're looking to grow. So focus on making each one of those customers more profitable. Retain more of what you earn. Become more profitable with the clients you have, and enjoy what you do a little bit more, and not have to continue to grow. And it all comes back to what Kim was saying, and rethink what your thoughts were. The person doesn't need to be sitting right next to you. You don't have one person that needs to do everything. You were blessed to have that years ago, but you're probably not now. So think outside the box, look at technology, look at different things. And one of the reasons we started Relaxed Teams was, let's figure all this stuff out, because it's all changing and we don't know. If I had the answers, I wouldn't need this. So I mean, we're trying to find the answers together.
So you bring up a good point about, rather than hiring the jack of all trades, you can go specifically to individuals who are the experts in their field and just work with them. So
on very short windows too, on a situation where they work with you 2 hours, 4 hours a week, they work with you 20 hours a month, and you know, and that, or from that aspect. So you can really break down that role, that 40-hour week or 40-hour job into, and if you have someone who's really good at it, versus someone who's trying multiple things, it may be 5 hours here, 5 hours there, 7 hours there, and you actually save money in the long run.
So what would you say to the person who says, you know, it's just so much easier hiring one person, having that one point of contact that I can go to, as opposed to dealing with, you know, recruiting or hiring, interviewing, training 5 different people?
Understood. The big thing I would say is that, why are you complaining to me about it? Go do it. That'd be my answer. Go do it. You can't. So I mean, you're complaining to me.
Okay, well, that's an interesting point.
No, if it works, again, and getting back to Kim's point, if you have people, respect them, keep them, give them a raise.
Yeah. So Kim, going back to what you were saying about that with the retention, you talked about the hybrid model a bit, and as well as flex hours. Do you think, you know, with the pandemic, a lot of people were forced to work remotely? Do you see that as now something that's expected as a given, sort of as a benefit to working there? Or do you think companies are going to offer that to say, if you want to, you can, if you want to be in person, come on in and your desk space is still here. Do you see the real estate kind of field or their real estate portfolio shrinking because they don't need that space?
That's actually a great question. K-Force, they had a very large facility located off of downtown Tampa, over 200,000 square feet. They, because they've gone to this permanent hybrid model, have now downsized, sold that building, and are going with 50,000 square feet. And somewhere just between the West Shore District and downtown. So that's a large national staffing company that said, hey, we don't need 200,000 square feet anymore. We're going to do this hybrid model permanently. And because of that, we're going to go and minimize our real estate footprint. I know that Hayes has actually done the same thing when it comes to, offices that are throughout the country. So, yeah, companies are making it more of a permanent type of thing where they're going and minimizing their real estate hangover, as I like to call it. In terms of the candidates and the staffing companies that I work with, they tell me all the same thing. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, and he does accounting and finance, but very similar to what Frankie does. And he was saying, it's incredible. Every candidate I talk to is demanding a hybrid work model. They don't want to have to go to an office, 5 days a week and sit there for 50 hours. He was saying every single candidate that's a professional and has a good background and is employable with talent and skills, they want that hybrid model and are demanding it and won't actually take interviews with a company that won't offer the hybrid model. So it's you're right. It's a total shift, and it seems like for the short term, it's here to stay. I mean, who knows what the future will hold? But it's looking to be more like a marathon than a sprint when it comes to this. Candidates are digging in and saying, "I want a hybrid model. I'll go in some, but I'm not going to stay there 5 days a week."
So it sounds like it will be sort of the new normal, the new future of take it as
Absolutely. It doesn't show signs of abating at all. And companies are responding and reducing their real estate footprint, in answer to it.
So that I see that as interesting, because when I was in the corporate world, people were working 40 hours, or I should say they were in the building 40 hours. How much they work, I'm not going to address that, right? That's a whole nother conversation. However, Jennifer, picture this, right? You've got now these employees at home working. They're probably not dedicated to their job, their 40 hours. And you mentioned the gig economy. Do you think that there's some folks out there who will be kind of doing some things maybe on the side during those business hours? Is that something that you've heard of?
Do I think? Yeah. So yeah, actually a request of mine has been, if you're doing work, our client work, if your company gives you a computer to work on, and you have your personal computer, use your personal computer. Please do not use your company computer for our work. And it can only be, there's no way that I can see it, but they have to know that the company's gonna know, and logging in and logging off kind of stuff. So, yeah, the kind of saying, I think we grew up in the era of, you shouldn't have to worry about looking over your shoulder, like do the right thing and you have nothing to worry about. That's definitely how I grew up. That's how I live my life. And with my team too, we're in like a t-shirt and jeans and sneakers kind of like work environment dress code now. So if you get dressed up for Zoom meetings, right? But yeah, I definitely see the water cooler is gone. The water cooler's at home now. And we have to, they have to definitely stay focused, but the morale of staying focused and staying connected with their company while they're virtual is what I see is one of the hardest things. Is the companies that are going out, they're like boxing, gifting. I think they call it kitting, where they send boxes and they send swag, and you have team meetings and things like that. So that's what I see is one of the hardest things with corporations keeping in touch with their employees. And then as well as for someone like me who is has 1099s, everybody's a 1099, having that same kind of brand identity and team feeling amongst everybody. It's not easy to do virtually. You have to be very, very creative.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that was good. Good thoughts to ponder there. Frankie, you mentioned when employers are looking to hire and find people with their job descriptions, which I was definitely laughing to myself about, not at you, but with what you were saying, because just yesterday, a friend told my wife, hey, there's an opening in my department. You should, go ahead and do it. Submit your application and resume and all that kind of stuff. So I asked her about it. I said, what is this? What is the job for? And she goes, well, let me read you the description. And I didn't say it to her, but after she read it, I'm like, I don't know what that is. And it's not because of big words or jargon. It was just so, just like you said, pleasant attitude, hard worker, dedicated, but I have no idea what she was talking about. So when people are putting in those details and then going the extra mile and personalizing the interview with them, do you think that they're appreciating that extra step as the employer? Not obviously, I would think the candidate does, but do you think that they, realize that that's important?
Well, I actually know that they realize it's important because, when we take a job intake call, we won't just take the job description. We won't have HR send us a job description and work on it. We always want to talk to the hiring manager. And that's the first question we ask them. We say, let's break down this job as a percentage of time. And that's our go-to question. And 99% of the time, the person will say, you know what? That's a great question. I said, wait a second, didn't you just write this job description? How is that a great question now? But it really gets them to think. It gets them to think that saying you have good interpersonal skills and you're dedicated and motivated, and even some of the stuff that they say you're going to do is fluff. It's not a job description. I mean, it's okay to reinvent this wheel because the wheel's kind of turned into more of a square than a circle at this point. It doesn't work anymore. Even our resumes, we're looking to roll out a whole new way of presenting candidates. But let's stick with the job description right now. Tell the candidate this is what you're going to do, and I think on a job description you can say, and this is what you absolutely must have. And if that's absolutely what they must have, you got to live with that because you might miss out on a candidate. And I always say to the hiring manager, why? Why must they have this? I love when my clients say they have to have a CPA, and I say, why? If they're not signing off on an audit opinion, why do they need a CPA? And they can't answer that question. Okay, so we'll scratch that out, right? So you really have to dig down and say, what is the person going to do, and what does it really take for them to do it? And then you're going to find the right candidate, and you learn a little bit about almost yourself, right? That position, and sometimes you say, why am I saying this person has to do this on a daily basis? Maybe they shouldn't be doing that. So I think they appreciate it quite a bit, and it also helps them in the interview process because these people, the hiring manager, they're not in human resources. They don't interview people every day. It's just as intimidating for them sometimes as it is for the candidate. But then when they really know what they're talking about, when they can really explain this job in detail, it makes it more comfortable, I think, for both parties involved.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Dennis, were you raising your hand before?
No,
Okay, I thought you wanted to add something.
I was scratching my ear.
Okay, well, regardless,
I want to add something on one of the questions.
Okay.
The question you asked Jennifer, just very quickly, because I found it very interesting. The question you asked her about, are you worried about people working, two different jobs? I heard that there's actually, I think the Wall Street Journal had an article on the fact that some of the people that were working from home, there's actually a website that shows you how to work two jobs. That's how much of an issue it's become for some people who are working from home, that it showed them setting up two computers and how you can do 4 hours of work in one day and basically collect two paychecks. I mean, that's one of the obstacles that these companies do have with a total work from home environment. So it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting that you asked that question.
And the, sorry, but I need to share this really fast, Paul. There are companies, there are recruiting companies that are recruiting for remote employees only, where you go to work. So let's say, Frankie, you were recruiting someone to work with Dennis, and that you would be there for them 8 to 10 hours available to only that one client. And everybody's remote across the country. And I'm thinking, wow, I mean, a lot of people it's a gig economy. So what's different is, and this was pre-COVID, I mean, I don't see that working quite so well unless, I mean, it's kind of like the recruiter after the corporate recruiter kind of thing. But not everybody works well virtually.
Right.
I mean, it's very personal. Not everybody has that, can put those blinders on and ignore the washer and dryer, the dog barking. And not everybody has the space where they can focus, let alone internet.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's so many things involved in it. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Paul.
That's okay. That's fine. It's all about the conversation and getting information out there. So Dennis, as we kind of start to wrap things up, just 2 minutes or so, what's one thing that you really want people to take away and remember about when it comes to this?
That yes, there was a pandemic. Yes, COVID hit. Yes, that happened, but frankly, get over it. I mean, the world has changed, and you need to change the way that you think about hiring and retaining talent. You need to get the work done, and you can't expect that the what worked before to work. You've got to figure out what works for you, and you've got to get what you need to get done. And I think Frankie hit a lot of this on people just have preconceived notions and how they used to work. And I think, again, with my customer base, if you are small, be nimble, have the advantage. It's going to take a long time for these big companies to get it and to be able to do it, to make changes. Your only advantage is that you are small, you are nimble, you can make changes, so make them.
Okay. Thanks for that. Kim,
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Dennis, thank you. Dennis, you said it very, very clearly, adjust your mindset, right? Refine your practices for attraction and retention. See if what you're doing is working. And again, with that, it's understanding that, people are not as replaceable as a lot of companies think that they are. They leave. There's all that intellectual capital and subject matter expertise and knowledge that walks out the door. And it can take months to years to find the right people to put in those roles to rebuild it. So, what is that churn costing you, right? And we always say that you call your cable company, they're happy to see you go away, and then they just want to go and get that new customer. Doesn't work like that in what we do. It takes too long to go and develop folks and get them ramped up into the organization. I'd say that from a branding perspective, employers need to realize that your employees are your brand ambassadors, right? They're a walking billboard for your company. And whether that's good or whether that's bad, an employer needs to take stock up. If people are leaving in droves, they need to get down to the root cause of why they're leaving, because it's probably not all of them. It's probably the employer, right? So with that, do surveys, talk to your employees. What do they like about the company? What's going well? What's not going well? What could be changed? Exploring all areas, from HR to process to benefits to their own personal manager to the company strategy. Surveying and talking to the employees and getting their feedback is really key. So you're not developing these new retention models in a vacuum, right? Figure out what's important to people by talking to them and asking them.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Frankie, what's something that you want people to remember specifically if they remember nothing else?
Well, the thing to remember is every company is competing for a very scarce resource, top human capital, the best people available. So when you're out there and you identify that person, do everything you can to get them on board. You have to move quickly. You have to extend your best and final offer. Make them feel important. Send that offer in a timely manner, strong follow-up communication, quick responses to questions that they have. And if they accept the offer, the process is not done. It's far from done, as a matter of fact. Continue to be in contact with that candidate during the onboarding process. Reach out to them, coach them on giving notice. Every company is making counteroffers. Just like Kim's talking about retaining your employee. If they feel like they're about to lose them, they'll make a counteroffer. They want to retain that employee. The contact between accepting the offer and the first day of employment really makes the difference between having that person you wanted or going back to the starting point. Be prepared for the new hire on their first day. First impression has a major impact. Have their computer ready, their access cards, have a welcome sign, welcoming to our team. It might sound hokey, but that makes a big difference. People love to feel wanted, right? They want to feel part of the team. And when you have that strong employee, again, going back to what Kim said, create and maintain an environment that they do not want to leave. Finding top talent is super difficult. So retaining those employees is critical to the success of an organization.
Kim, what would you like for folks to remember? I'm sorry, Jennifer. I'm looking right at you, Jennifer, going, Kim.
Okay. What I like folks to remember. I think you have to be, if you're going to do work remotely, if you're going to set up this kind of business or work with somebody like this, you need to be crystal clear in what you can handle, what your workday looks like, what other obligations that you have. So just like going to a job, driving, leaving your residence and getting in the car and driving, you know what the commute is, you know what the expectations are at work. If you're going to be working remotely, have that conversation with the person that you're working with or the multiple people. We have an onboarding call with our clients and get to know them, get to know modes of communication. I mean, there's so many factors about working virtually, and keeping in mind, it may sound silly, but these bodies that we're in, we're not meant to sit. You have got to work on all your happy points. You have to keep exercising. You have to stand up. You've got to keep moving. So you have things, you have the work has to get done, but you have to take care of your physical and your mental health. And that's huge. So working with a company that you have that conversation, that's part of the conversation. It's like working with a corporation. What are their benefits? What are the benefits you're going to have in you? As a client and friend of mine says, you're the CEO of You Incorporated. What are you going to do for you if you're going to be a virtual employee or run your own virtual business?
Exactly. Okay. Jennifer, if people want to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
They can reach out to lots of places. So right now, my company name is Secretary Central. So you can find me on LinkedIn as Jennifer Wilner. You can find me through secretarycentral.net. And I'm also Business Connects. It's businessconnectsnj.com. And they can give me a call, 732-433-2915. But reach out to me on LinkedIn because that's where I like to help people.
Okay. Frankie, how can people reach you?
Well, I just changed my name so you can see my last name there, just like the food, Frankie Francese. So anybody who sees the name in the corner, FortisLLC.com. That's the name of my company. You go out to our website, again, FORTIS LLC.com, or you can call 1-800, the number 4, and the word Fortis, FORTIS. We'd love to talk to you about any hire needs, any career advice, whatever we can do to help you out.
Okay, sounds good. Kim, people can reach you?
Thank you, Paul. LinkedIn is probably the quickest, best, easiest way. Kim Henderson on LinkedIn, Cobalt Compass Solutions. And then also my website, cobaltcompasssolutions.com. I know that's kind of a long one to type out. And then, of course, if anyone needs, or if we know anyone that needs any type of training or consulting services in support of the staffing industry, any staffing companies that need that, they can feel free to reach out to me at 813-679-6649.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for that information. Dennis.
They should call you Paul. No, no, just kidding. If you want to reach out to me, you want to go to 551-249-1040 or go to relaxtax.com. So relaxtax.com, 249, I'm sorry, 551-249-1040 or call Paul.
Hello, it's Dennis's assistant. How can I help you? Well, I just got a new gig for me. Thanks, Dennis. I didn't even know that.
I know, I can't afford that. Never mind. Take that back. Don't call Paul.
Oh, the benefits of showing up to the lunch and learns. You never know what you're going to get. So, well, I want to thank everybody. I appreciate your time for joining us this afternoon, sharing your insights, your expertise, and just letting everybody know just a little bit more than they knew earlier. So thank you very much.